Thank y'all for coming today. I am Ansley, this is Jessica, Kubi, Flora, and Bamboo, and we are here today to talk about what is your interaction. And it's the uses and gratifications approach to understanding personal motivation for why people interact with bands and artists on Facebook. And we also incorporated the relational maintenance theory as well as the parasocial interaction concept to make our argument a lot stronger. And the uses and gratifications theory really goes into how individuals use media to fulfill their needs and wants. And it focuses a lot on the idea of the active audience. And as many of you know, if you were asked a question about what your interests were, you would more than likely be able to tell us what those are. And that's a very important part of uses and grat. And three things that make up uses and gratifications are personal identity, escape, and self-presentation. And relational maintenance can be interpreted as the relationship and interaction between an organization and its public. And in our case, the organization are the bands and artists that are on Facebook, and the public are going to be their fans that are interacting with them on Facebook. And parasocial interaction is a type of friend-like, very intimate relationship that someone would have with, let's say, if you're watching a soap opera, how you identify with a character on that soap opera. And we wanted to pull all three of these together to create our argument. And most literature that deals with uses and gratification really focuses on social media, but not anything as specific as looking at a band and artist and why a person interacts with someone specifically on Facebook. It's a lot more general. And parasocial interaction focuses a lot more on television and the people who are on TV and the relationships that we form with those kind of characters. And Flora is going to talk to us a little bit about the method.
Okay, our study employed a confidential online survey. A non-random convenience sample of undergraduate and graduate college students at the University of Georgia was used. Considering about our study has a time limitation, so the self-report survey method will be the fastest and cheapest and most efficient way to collect data. The survey was administered to the students by an online link in Qualtrics, which was live for a 2-week period. 4,000 emails were signed, and we got about 183 completed survey. The sample represents various majors and areas of studies, and as well as some different ethnicities. Over half of the respondents were female, and most of them were Caucasian. And the average age of our respondents were 22 years old, and 32% of them are graduate students, while the others were undergraduate students. And roughly about 2% of the respondents reported themselves being in the band.
And when it comes to instrument part, we use 3 different skills to assess the relationship between the band artist and the fan in Facebook. The first skill is the uses and gratification multi-dimensional skill. The second is the relational maintenance strategy skill. And the last one is the parasocial interaction multi-dimensional skill. And all of these skills are used in the previous research and deemed valid. We are also adapt them and apply them. And then we are using a 5-point Likert scale to assess the respondent's self-report.
Okay, as mentioned before, in order to get better understanding about the motives that why people use Facebook to especially interact with bands and artists, we applied uses and gratification instruments, which included 9 indexes, and we checked the reliability of the 8 indexes. But the last item of the scale didn't fall into any of the indexes, so we dropped this one. And statistically, we didn't find any important differences for the uses and gratification indexes. And for the relational maintenance items, we conducted the factor analysis, and it resulted in 3 factor solution. So we conducted the reliability check on the variables of each of the factors, and all of the 3 factors were reliable. So we left the first one as humanized, and the second one was commitment and responsibilities, while the last one was responsiveness. And for the social interaction with bands and artists, we conducted principal component factor analysis. And it was interesting that two of our factors were very similar to the results of the other researchers. And we also conducted the reliability check on that. And the factor 5 was dropped because the items had a very low reliability. And for the 4 factors, they are guidance, closeness, attraction, and face-to-face desire.
All right, we found a lot of really interesting results with our study. Regarding the uses and gratification theory, we found that people who are in a band have they use Facebook to interact with bands and artists less to escape than those who are not in a band. And we figured this to be because they interact with other bands and artists on Facebook for more of a professional reason, to network, to expand their fan base and that sort of thing, rather than just, escaping from their current obligations and that sort of thing. We also found that freshmen and juniors were more likely to use Facebook to interact with bands and artists to share information. And so they scored higher on the information sharing index, which means that they're more willing to share personal information, and they have that desire to really share personal information about themselves and their interests about bands and artists on Facebook. Regarding the relational maintenance theory, we found that sophomores scored higher on the humanized factor than did graduate students. And so we believe that younger audiences may perceive the communication from bands and artists on Facebook is more human and just sincere. Regarding parasocial interaction, we found that females were more likely to see or score higher for attraction, feeling more attracted to their favorite bands and artists on Facebook, whereas males were more likely to feel a stronger sense of closeness with their favorite bands or artists. There are way too many statistically significant correlations to list all of them. However, we found a few that were pretty interesting. We found that the companionship index on the uses and gratification theory was positively correlated with professional advancement, social interaction, and meeting new people. And these are all very social-based functions, and they require interaction with others. We also found that escapism was positively correlated with cool new trend and habitual pastime. And those don't really require interacting with other people, they're more of just a self-serving purpose. Finally, the number of bands that a person likes on Facebook was positively correlated with how many songs they purchase or download on Facebook, or on the internet in general, which basically means that people who are more interested in music have a greater likelihood of downloading music and interacting with bands and artists on Facebook.
And one part of our paper that we really wanted to focus on was how this study could actually help bands and artists connect with their public. And what we found was that really it's a younger demographic that's using social media. And so they are a great target for those bands and artists to reach out to via social media. And also there are differences in men and women with the attraction and the closeness factors. And so it might be worth looking into doing individual marketing for each of those groups. And bands and artists would really benefit the most from posting engaging posts, not to be repetitive, but things like videos or backstage things, pictures from the road, more personal things. Those are the most likely to be shared, liked, commented on. And we do have some limitations as well that Jessica's going to talk about.
Of course, with any survey that involves self-report, you have the issue of not being sure that people are answering honestly, or even to their best ability, and they may think they watch this many hours of TV a day, but they really don't. They may think that they download 18 songs the night before. So you have that issue with self-report, and then also our sample size was relatively small, and the makeup of our sample, because we used University of Georgia students, they might not be representative of all college students around the United States, because this is a big SEC, Southern university. And also, because we were studying just young adults in general, not all young adults go to colleges and universities, and so they might have some differences there as well.
And future research, we looked at a personal motivation from the fan side of why they use Facebook, but we also want to know why bands are on Facebook. What are they aiming to gain from their relationship through social media with their fans? What are they hoping to achieve? And also comparing other social media sites. Twitter, Instagram, MySpace is making a comeback. And so how Facebook actually compares to those, and is one better than the other? Is one more more effective. So these are things that people should really look at down the road. And that concludes our presentation. So if y'all have any questions.